Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and the Ukraine. We're also covering other topics as we deem necessary. So, today, let's start off with the news that is coming out of the region, coming out specifically of the area of operations centered within the area of the Ukraine. So first, the big news is that apparently Vladimir Putin has issued a ultimatum to the Ukrainians, to the current regime in power, and obviously his NATO handlers in the West. And that is essentially that Russia is going to continue to prosecute this war until final victory, until the Ukrainians surrender, or the current regime in power in Kiev surrenders and meets certain Russian demands. Certain Russian war goals, war aims will have to be met. Now look, we are in this position. The world is in this position right now because the powers that be in the West decided to overstep. They decided to try and place the Ukraine, the borderlands, into the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And the regime that was placed in power is hostile to the Russian Federation. There are elements within the Ukrainian state. Obviously, there are elements, very large elements within the West, especially NATO, that desires to seek the breakup of the current Russian Federation, breaking up into a multitude of states. And the Russians have drawn that line. And that's why we are seeing the fighting that we're seeing now. Now, the battles that are taking place right now, the breakthroughs that are currently happening, have put the Ukrainian military on its proverbial back foot. Okay, we have seen breakthroughs near Sumy, south of the city town of New York. Russian breakthrough here. The Russians are threatening Torsk. They are also threatening Chasiv Yar. We've seen this town here, this urbanized area, be overrun by Russian troops over the last few days. We'll modify this where you, the viewer, can see exactly what has happened. So again, the Russians continue to press their attack towards Chasiv Yar. At the same time, I've talked about this before, Russian military capacity continues to increase. It continues to grow day by day and enlarge. And as I've talked about before, the West has inadvertently created an alliance, a direct military alliance between the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China, not to mention some other states as well. And that was the policies of the Joseph Biden administration. Now, as we talk about Joseph Biden, we observed the disastrous debate that occurred. Because the problem is now, as I've talked about before in reference to that debate, is the fact that in all probability, the average American, the average uninformed urbanite here in the United States now fully understands that Joseph Biden is not calling the shots. He is not running the country. Someone else is running the country. Now, what has to have the powers that be in charge of the ununited states at this point is if the election proceeds with Joseph Biden as the Democrat nominee, and they inherently will control that vote, and if Joseph Biden wins through fraudulent voting processes, then obviously the American people will be fully awake and they will understand what has happened. So therein lies the challenge. Do they keep Joseph Biden on the ticket, or do they replace him? And who do they replace him with? Well, we have some of the front-running candidates that they could replace Joseph Biden with. Is it Gavin Newsom, Cobra Commander himself, who destroyed California single-handedly? Over the course of a few years, he has instituted tyrannical rule in the former Republic of California. Cobra Commander. Who else do we have? The Gestapo herself. This fine governor from the state of Michigan, Whitmer, orchestrated a FBI plot to have herself kidnapped by right-wing terrorists. Yep. She is also being considered to become the figurehead of the ununited States of America. So again, you got Cobra Commander, and you get Gestapo Whitmer, and then finally we got Big Mike. We got Big Mike herself. I don't know. Whatever you want to go with in today's culture is okay. So you got Big Mike, you've got the Gestapo, or you got Cobra Commander. But I still believe that they're going to continue on with Joseph Biden. I think they have to at this point. Now, the big issue is Kamala Harris, right? Just a few weeks ago, if there would have been a health scare, if there would have been a serious health issue with the figurehead president, then of course Kamala Harris would have been promoted to the figurehead in chief, right? And she has to ask the question, well, why are you looking to replace me now? Well, the reason that they're looking to replace you, Kamala, is you are an incompetent black female. And the only reason that Kamala Harris is on the ticket as vice president is because she is a black female. So she checked all the left-wing boxes. Female, check. Minority, black woman, check. Will she do what she is told? Check. All right, let's do this. And obviously, here she is, Vice Presidente of El Tropico. Oh boy, what a time! 4th of July, Independence Day, yesterday. Hope everyone had a great 4th, a most excellent 4th. But this is what we have to look forward to right here in the ununited States of America. So back to the ongoing conflict, the ongoing war that is taking place. Now, they're also now talking about the deployment of the F-16s to the Ukraine. So they're trying to figure out how to do this. And part of the issue is they know that once the F-16s are moved to Western Ukraine, the Ukraine, it is going to be target number one. So they have to figure out, they the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the powers that be in the United States, but mainly this is a NATO operation. They're going to have to figure out how to operate F-16s from Poland, from Romania, fly them into Ukraine, arm very, very quickly, and then launch operations against Russian forces, and then get those aircraft back into Eastern Europe. That is what they're going to have to do. That's the dilemma right now. And the question is, for NATO, is that going to expand the conflict? Will the Russians look to possibly strike targets in Poland, in Romania? Will there be some sort of kinetic activity? There even could be operations outside the scope of, say, a missile strike against those targets, if in fact the Russians believe that these F-16s are being operated out of Eastern Europe, Poland and Romania, which they inherently would have to be at some point. They would just have to be. All eyes in terms of assets by the Russians are going to be looking to take out these aircraft. If these aircraft fly east, they're going to get engaged by the Russian air defense network. S-400s, S-500s, S-300s, what have you. A very, very robust air defense network has been installed by the Russians in the East, in the Eastern Theater of Operations. And look, the F-16 obviously is not a low observable aircraft. In order for the F-16s to launch these JDAMs, Storm Shadows, what have you, they're going to have to get to altitude and then launch those systems. Now, there's talk by the Ukrainians that they believe that the F-16 would allow some form of air deterrence or possible air intercept missions, but I don't know how the Ukrainians are going to do that. If these F-16s operate in an air-to-air role in eastern Ukraine, they're going to get shot down. They're going to get shot down probably not by a Russian aircraft, but a long-range Russian surface-to-air missile system. Now, it's possible that Russian radars can track these F-16s, which they undoubtedly can, and they could also use MiG-31s with long-range air-to-air missiles as well. It's a very difficult situation to deploy these aircraft, and I don't foresee these F-16s really playing any kind of role in terms of decreasing Russian capability, especially in terms of ground attack missions, launching these 100 glide bombs per day against Ukrainian targets. It is having a huge impact on the course of the war. These glide bombs, these Russian glide bombs, they are killing and wounding vast numbers of Ukrainian troops every day. Now, if you watch the mainstream media here in the West, you watch MSN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, well, what do you hear? You hear, well, the Ukrainians killed 1 million Russians today and took 28 casualties. Or in most cases, no casualties. No Ukrainians died today. But they killed 1 million Russians. 1 million Russians died today. Yeah. Yep. Makes no sense. I mean, especially, again, given the fact the Russians have complete use of its Air Force and are launching thousands of these glide bombs per month against Ukrainian targets. Not to mention the Iskander strikes, the KH-59, 69 strikes, KH-101s, the Caliber cruise missiles. the amount of munitions the Russians are using in this conflict far exceed the amount of munitions the Ukrainians are using. Yet the Ukrainians are killing vast numbers of Russians every day. It just makes absolutely no sense. This will have to probably be the worst covered conflict in history, probably with the exception of the genocidal regime of Abiy Ahmed in the former state of Ethiopia, and that was essentially not covered at all. At all. So again, we are watching the Russian breakthrough. We will continue to monitor the Russian breakthrough. Things are starting to get very, very tense in terms of what the response is going to be from the West. Is it more money? Is it direct kinetic support? What is going to happen to try and prevent this continued Russian operation? And we don't know at this point. But we will continue to monitor. As always, thank you for joining us. Have a good day.